welcome to Mortals and Portals, a Pathfinder real play podcast. I'm your host and GM, Zach, and today nobody is joining me at the table because I am doing Digsby's origin story. This wasn't something I was necessarily planning on doing, but in our Discord, there was a lot of theories popping up about Digsby's backstory, and it just kind of got me thinking, and I got really excited about it, and I decided to make this episode. I'm not including the rest of the crew in this just because I kind of want them to be surprised by it as well, and it probably won't have your typical flow of our past origin episodes. I just thought I'd take a crack at it myself, see how it turns out, and I'm pretty excited about it. So it's probably going to be a different kind of episode. To be honest, I'm improvising a lot of this, but we'll see how it goes. So our story begins 120 years before Episode 1, with a much younger Digsby holding the hand of his wife as he stands on the deck of a ship overlooking a quaint island in the distance with a ley line above it, shining brilliantly in the sky, looking truly magnificent. And the young Digsby turns to his favorite person in all of Caldora and says, "See, what did I tell you? They weren't lying back in Greenshire when they said that this place was truly beautiful." His wife looks to him, a smile brimming across her face as she stares deeply into her husband's eyes and says, "I never doubted you for a moment, dear." "Oh, yes you did. I could see it in your eyes." "Oh, well, perhaps I should be more careful then." Oh dear. No, don't bother. I like knowing what you're thinking." "Well, what am I thinking now, then?" And she stares back at him, and the two lock eyes a little bit longer. "You're thinking this will be the perfect place to start our family. Our own little crew, if you will. The Digsby crew." "Did you just think of that?" No, I've spent a good amount of time thinking about it. I've got a list, actually." "Well, call us whatever you want, but that sounds wonderful. I can't wait." They smile at each other, look back to the ley line as they approach Nisserine, and Digsby turns back over his shoulder, looking to the captain of this ship, and says, "Well done, good sir. You got us here safe and sound. Worth every bit of silver. But what did you say your name was again?" And the captain takes off his captain's hat as he scratches his balding hair with a comb over. He's got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, and he says,
"Oh yeah, the name is, Samjum. Captain Samjum."
Yeah, that's right, Sam Jum?"
"Yes."
Sorry, it's an interesting name. It reminds me of Sam, but with like Jum slapped on the end."
"Yeah, that's kind of how we do it in my family. Everyone just has Jum at the end of their name."
"Oh, interesting. Well, very cool." And he looks at his wife with a bit of a confused, awkward look on his face, realizing he may have just offended this captain. She shakes her head, knowing all too well this is something her husband does quite often. And after some time, the ship docks on the island of Nisserine. "By the way, these overalls and hat fit perfectly. Thank you for making them. I feel like a farmer already." "Of course, dear. You look very handsome in them. Green is certainly your color." "Handsome, you say? And here I thought I landed you on my charm alone." "Well, that played a part too, no doubt." The two smile at each other, holding hands, and makes their way onto the docks, approaching a quaint little town that is clearly in the middle of construction. A few completed buildings, but seems to be a fairly new settlement. Digsby leans into his wife and says, "That Captain Sanjum, he said this town is called Karos, or something like that." "Karos, huh? I love it." "Well, then so do I." And as they make their way down the docks into the town, they are stopped by a little girl who is picking flowers on the fringes of the town, and she says, "Oh, new people! How exciting! Who are you?" "Oh, well, my name is, Barnabas, and this is my wife, Silver." The little girl stands up, scratches at her elf ears. "Silver? I've never heard a name like that." And Digsby's wife chuckles. Well, technically my name is Silverlyn, but my husband here, he prefers to call me Silver. The most valuable thing in all the world, if you ask me. And he looks at her, affection in his eyes. Oh, and what is your name, little girl? Oh, my name is Toriel. Toriel Bloomspring. Maybe you know my dad, Tyven Bloomspring? He's the mayor? Oh, no, dear, we've only just arrived, but he sounds like a lovely man. Digsby's wife looks at Toriel and says, What are you doing picking those flowers, Toriel? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to gather supplies for a potion, you see, a healing potion. It's my dream to be a doctor, you see, but the flower I need here, it hasn't bloomed yet, so I may have to look elsewhere. Silver chuckles. Oh, well, do you mind if I take a look? Oh, sure, yeah. And she kneels down next to Toriel, looks at the flowers, and says, So you mean this flower? And she points at it, and it begins to grow, and is suddenly in full bloom. Wow, how did you do that? Digsby walks up. Oh, my beloved Silver here, she's, what is it? A druid, sweetie. Yes, some sort of druid. She's magnificent, isn't she? Incredible! Thank you so much. I thought I was out of luck. I don't think these are in season yet. Well, they're not, but a little bit of magic can go a long way. I'll say, thank you so much. My pleasure. Run along now. You have a potion to brew. Right. And Toriel takes off running into the town of Karos. Making friends already, I see, dear. Well, this is our new home after all. Well, I do need to go speak to this mayor about the deed to this land we've purchased. Make sure I know where it is. All right, well, while you do that, I think I'm going to walk around and get to know everyone. Oh, of course. See you soon, my dear. And they give each other a kiss. Digsby walks around Karos, his thumbs placed under the straps of his green overalls, whistling to himself, not very well, asking passerbys, Tyven Bloomspring, mayor, until someone points him in the direction of his office. Digsby opens the door to find a long-nosed elf with his hair pulled back, high cheekbones, looking diligently at some papers on his desk, and he looks up. May I help you? Yes, Barnabas Digsby here to inquire about this land I've purchased back in Greenshire. I've sailed all this way, just want to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. He sets down this deed and slides it across the mayor's desk. The mayor leans forward. I see. It's pretty deep into the island. Much of that hasn't been explored yet. Just a fair warning. Can't guarantee what you'll find up there. Well, I've come too far to turn back from a little bit of a challenge. Though, I should check with my wife first. If you could just tell me how to get there, that would be wonderful. All right. The mayor steps up from his desk, walks over to a map of the island that is hanging from the wall of his office. Explains a little bit about the island to Digsby, tells him about some of the rabbit trails that'll get him most of the way there. Explains that they know there is a fairly good clearing in this area, and they suspect it would be very good farmland. Wonderful. I'll just buy some chickens from someone around here, and we'll get started. The mayor gives Digsby a nod. Digsby heads back into the center of town, finds his lovely wife, Silver, already making friends with everybody in town. They all seem to love her already. Very popular. Digsby knows his wife well, but even he is a little surprised by how quickly she managed to do this. Dear. Oh, yes, sorry. This is my husband, Barnabas. Digsby waves. Yes, hello. He pulls his wife to the side and says, I spoke to the mayor. I know how to get to our land, but he did provide fair warning. It may be somewhat dangerous up there, a little unknown. He looks at his wife eagerly, hoping that this doesn't dissuade her. She studies him, knowing how important this is to her husband, and says, We've come too far to turn back now, sweetie. Whatever's up there, we'll handle it together. Oh, wonderful! And he gives her a excited hug. Silver leans back with a playful look in her eyes. But it'll cost you one kiss. Digsby looks surprised, then gives a playful smile. Ha! How sneaky of you, telling me the price after the fact. I'll have to remember that one. And he leans in and gives her a kiss. They smile at each other, gathering some supplies from around Karos, getting some chickens to start their farm, and travel to their new home, observing the beautiful ley line, this ribbon of color that hangs over the island, truly breathtaking as they enjoy the wonderful climate of this quaint, secluded island. They have a beautiful journey to their new home, laughing together, talking about their future children, this Digsby crew that Barnabas is so eager to start with his favorite person. After some time, they arrive at this beautiful clearing, perfectly flat, with a steep hill overlooking it, a densely populated tree line, and he begins to point. Over there we can build a cabin. There, the barn could go. We could start a chicken coop over there. He goes on and on about all of his ideas. Silver, nodding, enjoying the excitement in her husband's voice. About a year has passed. The couple built the cabin they envisioned, built the barn, chicken coop, started to do well, selling eggs, maybe even getting some livestock as well. Things are going perfectly. From time to time, they ride into town, selling their wares, mingling with people, making quite an impression. This truly is their new home, and they feel it's a great place to start their family. One beautiful morning, the couple sits down at their table with their windows open, listening to the birds chirping, enjoying their breakfast together. Digsby looks across the table at his wife, who seems to be counting some seeds on the table. What do you have there, my dear? Oh, well, apple seeds. I was thinking we could plant them. There's plenty of room here. We could have both the chickens and the livestock and maybe start a little orchard here. What do you say? Are you kidding? I love it. Especially with your, whatever magical powers, I don't know. Your loving touch. I'm sure these will be the greatest apples in all of Keldora. Oh, you always have so much faith in me, don't you, Barney? Of course I do. I picked you out myself, and you're a good apple. Well, if this orchard doesn't work out, at least we know you could be a stand-up comedian. You really think so? That's not a bad idea. Would you like to plant them today? Oh, yes. Let me just go mend the north fence this morning, and then I'll come back and we can plant them together. What do you say? Wonderful. But don't take too long, sweetie. It looks like it may rain today. Digsby stands up from the table, tightening the shoulder straps on his green overalls, getting ready for business, looks to his wife and says, "It's a date," gives her a kiss on the forehead, and grabs his tools and heads to the northern edge of his land, whistling the entire way. After a long walk and some time hammering away at his fence, Digsby dusts off his overalls, admiring his handiwork, remembering he must get back soon so he can plant apples with Silver, and bends down to pick up his tools, but pauses as something catches his eye just beyond the fence. He climbs over the fence, walking into the brush, and freezes, tilting his head, confused and alarmed, as he sees a set of massive footprints. He kneels down beside them, observing them, concern on his face, his heart pounding a little, thinking back to the mayor's warning over a year ago about these unknown parts of Nisserine. And he snapped from his thoughts as he hears a piercing scream echoing from the distance back towards his cabin. Oh, no, no! He drops his tools, jumps over the fence, and sprints back to the cabin. No, no, no! Silver! Silver! He sees the side of his barn destroyed with a massive hole in the side. The fences containing his livestock broken, some of his animals missing, trails of blood. Silver! Silver! He starts running towards the cabin. Silver! And she hears, Barnabas. Digsby looks around and sees his wife laying near a hole she was starting to dig, no doubt in preparation for planting their apples. Silver! Silver! No! And he runs and slides up to his wife, laying on her back, lifts her head. She winces. He looks down and sees a large splotch of blood in her clothing. So, no, what has happened? What has happened? Dear, Barney, it's okay. What do you mean? No, there was an ogre. He showed up. He started attacking the livestock. I tried to run. He ran me down. No, magic. Your magic is. What do I do, Barney? It's too late. I just need you. I need you to know that I love you. No, don't say I love you too. Don't say that. No. And Barney, I need you to promise me. I need you to promise me. What? Don't go after him. Just leave. Go back to Caro's. Please, go back to Caro's. No, Silver, no! I love you, Barney. And she closes her eyes. Digsby stares at her, waiting for her to say something, waiting for her eyes to open as rain starts to trickle down on him. Silver. Digsby, after taking time to cry, looking at his beloved Silver, lowers her into the hole she dug, buries his wife, reluctantly saying goodbye as the rain beats down on him. He slowly raises his head, trembling with rage. He barges into his cabin, grabs his crossbow, and heads into the wilderness. He tracks this ogre for weeks. He has no experience hunting, especially not a foe like this, but he is determined to avenge his wife. Her words, asking him not to pursue the monster, forever ringing in his mind, knowing she would know that it could probably get the best of him, but part of him wonders if that would even be so bad. He's found signs of the behemoth from time to time, but never able to track him down completely. Digsby's beard started to grow out, his hair hanging wildly. He's barely ate over these few weeks, barely slept, refusing to rest until he's had his vengeance. Eventually, he stumbles upon the signs of a recently killed deer with an unnatural blood trail as if it was drug somewhere. He recognizes this as it looks like exactly what he saw in his own barn. He follows it in the dead of night, only the glow of the ley line and the stars to guide him. And he stumbles upon a camp with an ogre feasting on this deer, its back turned as it sits on a log, hulking traps, shoulders, arms, easily 5 times the height of Digsby, and even more so in weight. Digsby's heart begins to pound. His breath gets shaky as he grips his crossbow and aims it from the brush. He exhales, thinking of Silver, and he fires the crossbow, and it flies from the brush and strikes the ogre in the back. It lets out a roar that echoes amidst the forest, sending birds flying into the air. It throws its food to the side and leaps up from the log, whipping its head around. Digsby dives to a nearby log, hiding up against it as he nervously reloads his crossbow. It's scanning the tree line and begins lumbering towards it. Digsby wipes sweat from his brow, knowing if he gives the ogre any more time, this fight won't get any easier, and he peeks up from behind the log and fires the bolt again, this time hitting the ogre near the collarbone. It lets out another roar, and then it pounds its chest, picks up a club nearby, and begins sprinting towards Digsby. Digsby starts to backpedal, loads the crossbow once again, his hands shaky, trips on a root and falls on his back. as the ogre sprints towards him and he fires the crossbow again, hitting it in the chest, green blood trickling down. He sees the ogre raise the club above his head and swing it downward. He rolls to the side as it bashes into the ground. He gets up and starts to run, stumbling along the way, trying to load his crossbow again. As the ogre runs towards him, he turns around, fires the crossbow, hits the ogre in the leg as the ogre stumbles forward and wraps its hands around Digsby, raising him into the air. Digsby kicking his feet, his heart pounding. As the air is squeezed from his lungs, his vision starts to grow black. The ogre says,
"You look tasty."
Digsby pulls a dagger out from the pocket of his overalls and stabs down into the ogre's hand. The ogre lets out a roar, lets go of Digsby as he falls on the ground and starts to crawl backwards, frantically diving into the brush, rolling down a small hill and putting his back up against the tree as the ogre looks into the brush again, sniffing, trying to find Digsby. Digsby, with his back against a tree, looks up, has an idea. The ogre, slowly walking into the dark brush, looking for signs of the pesky halfling, stops at the base of the tree, sniffs again, as a grin overtakes the ogre, and he whips his head around the other side of the tree, expecting to see Digsby, and looks puzzled. Then, from the upper branches, hears, "You took my silver!" And Digsby jumps from the branch and lands on the ogre's shoulders as he digs his dagger deep into its skull. It stumbles backwards and Digsby dives, lands in the ground, turns around to see this massive ogre falling towards him and rolls to the side just as he hits the ground. Digsby gathers his breath, looks at the ogre, rips the dagger from his skull, and knows his vengeance is complete. About a week later, Digsby returns to his land. It's been a month or so since he was last there. He stops as he approaches the cabin, as all the memories come flooding back. He looks to Silver's grave, and suddenly his vengeance means nothing. He walks towards it, slowly, exhausted, looking malnourished, his wild beard and hair covered in dirt, and he just kneels by the grave. "I'm sorry, Silver. I miss you so much." And he lowers his head and begins to weep. And as his tears hit the grave, light begins to glow, originating from the soil itself, as he sees something sprout from the ground, the beginnings of an apple tree, shimmering, glowing with vibrant light. Digsby's eyes light up. He's thinking to himself, what is, what? And then he remembers. Silver, she had apple seeds in her pocket when he buried her, and he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know much about magic. He just knows that his wife, she can do anything. She was a druid. She was brimming with innate magic. He doesn't know, but he just feels like somehow his love for her love for him, she gave him one last gift. And he springs to his feet, wiping his tears, knowing his wife wanted to do nothing more than plant an apple tree with him on that fateful day. And he's filled with a new sense of determination. He feels the presence of Silver, and for the next few months he watches this tree day and night as if it was Silver herself, taking the best care of it possible, watching it grow faster than any apple tree ever could, with renewed sense of purpose, a clean shave, tidy hair, clean green overalls, and his trusty straw hat, until one day it bears the very apples Silver wanted to grow all along. Digsby plucks one of them, looking at it. "There's nothing you can't do, Silver." He shines it on his overalls, looks at it. "Thank you for taking care of me." And he bites into the apple, and it tastes like nothing he's ever tasted before, as sweet as Silver herself. "My goodness! Oh, these are magnificent! Oh, and he rejoices and dances happily under the tree. You did it, Silver, you did it! Running around in circles. From that day on, Digsby did nothing but grow apples at his orchard to commemorate Silver. Every so often he would bring them into town, sharing them with the people of Karos, bringing happiness with him every time, spreading joy, just as Silver did whenever she rode into town. Digsby was happy once again, always quick to joke, smile, and, out of respect to his wife, and the very first time he brought him into town, when people asked how much they cost, without even thinking about it, knowing where these apples came from, he simply said, "That will be 1 silver." For decades, Digsby sold these apples. They mattered to him more than anything. And one day he rode into town, along the way noticing that the beautiful ribbon of light, the ley line, not that he knew it by that name, that existed over the island had gone. He was confused, but he knows magic is over his head. When he arrived to town, ready to drop off his apples at the general store, he saw some soldiers standing there that he hadn't seen before, taking food from the people of Karos. He ran up to Toriel, who was now older, said, Toriel, what's happened here? What are they doing? Who is this? Oh, Digsby. Something's happened. These men, they came here recently. They went to the ribbon in the sky, the ley line they call it. They've taken it. I don't understand, but they're staying here, and they seem like they want to rule over us. They've taken my father. He's imprisoned. I don't know. What? Hey, you there! And he looks over at a Drake Knight that is taking cabbages away from one of the farmers, and he turns around with a smirk on his face, a crooked nose, and a crooked tooth grin. What we have here? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You can't just come in here and take things from people. Well, I'm Captain Nelly. Captain? Under whose authority? None of your business. Is this the apple man? He looks to Toriel, who doesn't respond. Oh, I've heard about those apples. Looks like you got some in your cart there. What? Oh, those aren't for you. Those are for the good people of Karos. Well, some things have changed around here, old man. This is Sindor's island now. So that means those are Sindor's apples. And I think he'd want his men to have them. So hand them over. What? No. These cost 1 silver, and they cost 1 silver. You can't just have them. No, they're too precious. They're too special. You can't just take the apples. Captain Nelly smirks, nods to a knoll nearby, a big hyena man. Take the apples, Dom.
My pleasure.
Walks over, shoves Digsby on the ground. Oh, no, hey! Goes up to his cart, rips a bag of apples out of him, reaches in, grabs a single apple, throws it to Nelly, takes one out for himself, and they both bite into them. Oh no, those cost 1 silver, those aren't for you, you tyrants! Aye, these are pretty good, aren't they, Dom?
Yeah, real good, Captain.
You know what? I think I'll be paying you a visit once a month. What do you say? Bushel of apples, and we'll stay out of your hair. No, these belong to my beloved Silverlyn. These are her apples. You can't just take the apples. This is wrong. No. Digsby looks around frantically, stands to his feet, thinking to himself, thinking of his beloved wife, these precious apples that mean the world to him, and these people simply taking them. And he clenches his fist and starts to run at Captain Nelly. Don't like that deal, huh? And he pulls out his sword and he's about to swing at Digsby as he runs towards them, but just then, Ivanara steps between them. Put it down. Nelly, please, put it down. Digsby halts, looking at this primate humanoid with half-moon spectacles riding on the tip of his nose. He looks a little beat up, distraught. Pipe down, Dunadast. We've already got all we need out of you. You're not in charge. If that's the case, then why haven't you killed me already? Sindor told you to keep me alive. What's your point? My point is, leave the halfling alone. If you kill him, where will you get your apples? Captain Nelly takes another bite of his apple. I suppose that's a good point. You are pretty smart, Dunadast.
I was hoping to kill him, boss.
Easy, Dom. Dunadast looks over his shoulder at the knoll, back at Nelly, and breathes a sigh of relief. And Captain Nelly says,
You're lucky Sindor wants you alive for some reason, Monkey Man. But one day, you're gonna get what's coming to you.
Dunadast looks down and looks up.
And so will you, Captain Nelly. We'll see about that. Alright, Dom, let's go.
And the two Drake Knights walk off. Dunadast looks to Digsby.
I'm sorry, friend. I know you could have handled that yourself, but I felt compelled to intervene.
Digsby calms himself, realizing he was about to do something very dangerous, almost tapping into that rage he felt when he hunted the ogre, and he looks up to Dunadast.
No, that's all right, thank you. May I try one of your apples? Oh, yes, of course, yes, the least I could do. Help yourself. Thank you.
He reaches into the bag of apples, pulls it out, and takes a bite.
My, these are delicious. What is your secret, friend? It's my silver. How much silver? What? Right. It cost me 1 silver. Well, it's certainly worth that.
And Dunadast reaches into his pouch and pulls out a single silver and hands it to Digsby. Digsby takes it, holding it tightly.
Thank you.
Dunadast looks at Digsby.
Friend, I am new here, and I can tell much has changed for you good people, but I promise you, one day it will be made right, and this land will be returned to you. Do you understand?
Digsby looks up at Dunadast, detecting sorrow, regret in his eyes. He looks at him, then nods.
One day or another, ogres always get what's coming to them.
Digsby turns around, gets in his cart, and heads home. A couple decades later, a much older Digsby, riding into town on the road to Karos, listening to the birds chirp, enjoying the peace that is less frequent these days, whistling to himself, thinking of his beloved silver, until he suddenly hears someone whistling alongside him. And he goes,
huh, what?
And turns around all wide-eyed and says,
hello, how are you doing, sir?
As he observes a kobold that says,
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for the ride. Where are you headed?
And that is where we'll end our session. So yeah, that is the brief origins of our beloved Digsby. That may or may not have been what you expected. And I don't have anybody to tell to shut up right now. So I'm just going to tell myself to shut up because I just can't restrain that. Shut up. Because I'm going to talk about this in the downtime, which is for patrons, where we react to the most recent episode. You know, maybe I'll get the crew to listen to this and include them in on the downtime as well. I am planning to surprise them with this, so we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, we'll see you next time, mortals.